He's a tastemaker.
Company!
Jackie!
Hi, honey.
Hop on in.
Nice to see you.
Welcome.
Ah,
Where are we going to eat?
we're going to Vincent's Clam Bar.
And what's your favorite dish there?
The lasagna, and I'll have a pair of meatballs.
I'll help you out.
Okay.
You keep true to one of the most basic forms of comedy, the joke. How do you know when something's funny?
I heard my first joke when I was in 3rd grade. Something in my 3rd grade mind said, wow, that's cool. And I've remembered every joke since then. I'm not a comedian, I'm a joke teller. And I've been telling them my whole life. So I'm at the point where I just know what I can make work. I get so excited when I get a new joke. And a couple of years ago, I heard the greatest joke I've ever heard. The wife says to the husband, get out, get out, get the hell out. And as her husband's walking out the door, she says, I hope you die a slow, painful death. He turns around and says, so now you want me to stay?
But you just, like, rapid fire.
People say, how do you remember them? It's like when you're driving along the expressway, how do you remember how to go past all those exits? They're just along the way. I just do them along the way, and if I want to get off on an exit and go do 10 jokes like this or 3 over here, I mean, but that's the only thing I know, so that's just boom, boom, boom.
What's the difference between a comedian and a joke teller?
I really don't know. You know, people make observations, but I tell jokes, set up punchline, and they're just fun. You know, as opposed to talking about my life or my apartment or my girlfriend. But it's, you stand up at a microphone and try to make the people in front of you laugh. It's basically the same thing. You're the guy in the room facing the wrong way. You know?
Who are some of the people that have influenced you?
My very, very favorite of all time was Rodney Dangerfield, and actually was on the road with him for a little while, which was like, I died and went to heaven. But I loved Henny Youngman. My mother and father used to sit and watch me watch Red Skelton, because Red Skelton used to stand there and giggle, laugh at himself and try and make the other people laugh. It's so funny. Years later, I was working at the Fort Lauderdale comic strip. So long ago, there was actually a television in the condo for the comics. And it was Red Skelton's 75th anniversary in show business. And he's up there laughing and giggling and swinging his arms, and he's cracking himself up. And the other comics are like, Martling, that's you. And so I don't know if subconsciously, you know, there's 2 things you don't do in comedy. You don't tell old jokes, and you don't laugh at yourself. And that's all I do is tell old jokes and laugh at myself.
You just have a passion for what you do.
We're in our 7th year of Jackie's Joke Hunt on Sirius XM Howard 101. We have 1 hour of jokes, usually off-color jokes, every week. It's just great fun. The listeners call in and tell jokes, and we tell jokes, and we give them setups to jokes. It's just a free-for-all. And by a weird set of circumstances, my girlfriend and I, Emily Connor, came across this play, Italian Bread, that is just so great. It's Harry Gardino was a famous Italian actor. He was the main detective in Dirty Harry, and he always was playing a cop or a detective. And his grandniece, Candace Gardino, does a one-woman show about being raised on Staten Island by her grandmother. It's just a nice, heartwarming, but a little edgy and really, really funny show. And we wound up getting involved, so we're working as producers on it. It's really fun to get into the nitty-gritty and the guts of something. Right away when I went into comedy, I started making my own albums. And then I heard about this guy that was coming to New York City, and I blindly sent my 3 comedy albums to Howard Stern. A couple months later, I got a phone call. He said, listen, we think you're a riot. You know every joke in the world. Do you want to come in and hang out on the air? And I sat down with Fred and Robin and Howard, the same people that were there the last day I worked there in 2001. And we laughed for 4 hours, and at the end of the day, they said, you're a lot of fun, come back next week. So I came back once a week for 3 years, and then we went to mornings, and I went to full-time, and we went to the moon.
Did you realize what an impact you were going to have?
Nobody knew anything. I don't think Howard, nobody knew anything. It was so funny because when we first went to mornings, he made such a big splash, and people would interview us. They say, you know, the show is great, but how long can it last? That's like 1987. All of a sudden we have a TV show, and they're like, oh, you guys are doing great, but how long can it last? And then he came out with the books, and then the movie. He kept reinventing and adding on, in addition to the radio show that just got better and better and better.
How do you write for Howard Stern? How is that different than writing for yourself?
It's so odd because I never wrote a joke for him. It's like if you were sitting here and there was a guy sitting there, and you and him were having a conversation, and assuming I'm a funny guy, he says something, and you say something, and he says something, maybe I think of something funny. Instead of saying it, I'd write it down and put it in front of Howard. So he had his sense of humor, and my sense of humor going for it. And then we eventually got to where Fred, it was Howard's sense of humor, my sense of humor, and Fred's sense of humor. So not only was he hysterical, but he had three distinct senses of humor. The combination just worked. I remember Gary used to say, uh-oh, no guests today, because if there were no guests, that meant everybody's going to be attacking each other. So and those were some of the greatest shows.
Every man for himself.
I've had a dial joke for over 34 years, and it's 516-922-WINE. People come up and say, you know, I used to call you joke line 20 years ago, and now everybody has a cell phone. I go, yeah, well, dial it now. They say, what are you talking about? I said, it's still going. They say, you're crazy.
So what's beyond Joke Land?
I eventually want to make a whole series of joke books that log all the radio shows we've done, because there's no reason for me to not have the greatest joke book in history. And I also have my, not my novel, but my autobiography, which is finished, and I'm, you know, do you self-publish? I've been doing acting.
Okay.
The last movie I was in was 2 Milestones. I was in the trailer, and I got beat up.
What movie?
It's called Send No Flowers. Sean Young is a star. Tony LoBianco and Robert Clohessy are in it, and Johnny Russo. And it's a mob romp. She takes over her father's mob. So it's Tony Soprano, only it's a girl. I'm ready. When you make a movie, you better call.
There we go.
516-922-WINE.
That's right.
Monday, Pixel